And with that, I would now like to formally begin today's conference and introduce Kevin Richardson, Associate Deputy Administrator for Program Support Services and Veterinary Services.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our VS Student Programs webinar, which is being delivered by Program Support Services Management Support Division. I'm going to pass it over to LaWanda Gamble, the Director for the Management Support Division, and her staff in a few minutes to talk about the differences in our various VS student programs. But first, I want to acknowledge a few folks that may be attending our webinar today. I believe Dr. Jack Shear, who is our VS Deputy Administrator, he may or may not be in attendance. I knew he had a meeting conflict, but if he's here, I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Shear. We also may have our VS Associate Deputy Administrator, Dr. Brian McCluskey. He also may be in attendance. We may also have Chris Dukakis. She is the APHIS Deputy Administrator for Policy and Program Development. Chris is currently leading the APHIS Recruitment and Hiring MAC, also known as the R&H MAC. She is leading this project management office that was stood up earlier this year to work on various recruitment initiatives and to reduce the HR backlog. And some of her staff in the project management office may be on too. And last, I wanted to mention that we may have some folks from our APHIS Human Resources Division and our Human Resources Operations Team 2, John Croson and their staff. They may also be in attendance. That is the team that services VS. VS has been using our various student programs as part of our succession and workforce planning efforts in order to shape the VS future workforce. We as VS, as everybody knows, are primarily a professional with some administrative employees, and those employees consist of veterinary medical officers, animal health technicians, scientists, other support positions. But we have about 2,000 employees, and that consists of temporary, permanent, and term employees. Out of those 2,000 employees, the mission-critical occupation that we have, as everyone knows, are veterinarians, veterinary medical officers, and we have about 700 of those. Out of that 2,000 workforce, about 20% of those employees are eligible to retire. That's 20%. We know not everyone would actually leave based on being eligible, but one of the things that Dr. Shear has done, he's challenged the entire executive team and the VS leaders, and he is personally committed to ensuring that we use these student programs that LaWanda and her staff are about to present and other initiatives to ensure that we have the right talent for our workforce. We know we can't fill all of the 20% that are eligible to retire with seasoned people. We do have to build that pipeline, and part of building that pipeline is to get new folks within our organization. Part of it that we'll hear about, these are recruitment programs. But we also need to develop folks, and we also need to retain folks. And that's another piece that's associated with our workforce planning efforts. A few things that I want to highlight before I pass it on to LaWanda, just to show how committed VS is to our student programs plus other workforce planning efforts. One of the things that VS did, we committed to ensuring that we would centrally fund and place these student programs and other initiatives across VS. We did not put some of these initiatives in the business unit because we wanted to show that we are committed as a program to some of these initiatives. Another activity that we've done within VS is be very creative. Some of these programs that you'll hear about are attached to our Pathways programs. Through LaWanda and her leadership and Dr. Shear, we've looked at these programs and added other components such as scholarships and other things to make these programs help us diversify our workforce. If you worked in another agency, you might just hear about the Pathways programs, but we've done a really great job to ensure that we have other pieces to add on to these programs to ensure that we make VS the best place to work. And the last piece to show our commitment to these programs and these student programs you'll hear about is that we really believe that these programs will help us forge and build our future leaders. You'll hear about the Saul T. Wilson program in a minute, and within VS, one of our biggest supporters is actually Rosemary Sifford, and she was a Saul T. Wilson, and she is now a member of the Senior Executive Service within VS. So it shows how VS is committed, that we've actually had someone come in through one of these student programs and is currently in an SES position. So again, these are some of the things that we wanted to showcase and highlight, and LaWanda and her group will cover these programs in a few. So LaWanda,
Great.
All yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to our presentation student program webinar today. On December 27, 2011, President Barack Obama signed Executive Order 13562, Recruiting and Hiring Students and Recent Graduates. The executive order created the internship program, the recent graduates program, and revised the Presidential Management Fellows program. To give you a little history about these programs, the USDA Pathways program replaced the former Student Employment Program, formerly known as STEP and SCEP. The USDA Internship Program targets students that are enrolled in a wide variety of educational institutions. The USDA Recent Graduates Program targets recent college graduates and graduates of other OPM-approved qualified institutions, while the USDA Presidential Management Fellows Program targets individuals with advanced degrees. Our student programs that we coordinate here within Veterinary Services aren't just VS's program, but are across the government as a whole for USDA. The primary lead coordinator is Karen Martin, who is the National Recruitment Program Outreach Coordinator that also manages the Employee Program Specialist position on staff. And the other program managers are, for the Salty Wilson Junior Internship Program, is Lynn Chambers. For the Daniel E. Salman Internship Program, the 1890 Scholarship Program, the Summer Intern Program, and the new VS Tribal Nation Initiative Program, all of those programs fall under Deirdre Nevue, who is the VS National Recruitment Program Specialist also. Some examples of or differences in comparison to our student programs include, as I mentioned before, all of the various programs being the Saul Wilson, the Daniel Salman, the 1890s, Summer Intern Program, the VS Tribal Nation Initiative. There are times when the various business units will bring on their own summer intern or may bring a student on board throughout the year. We have an externship program in which we work with our districts and our assistant district directors that have a college of vet medicine institution within their state serve as a liaison to that institution for veterinarian students who want to come on board to complete their fourth year clinical rotation. So we have an externship program in which students can come on board at any time throughout the year on a volunteer basis. And as you can see, their travel, housing, salary, tuition, nor are they eligible for conversion to competitive service. So everything is on a volunteer basis. They just receive the credit for the work experience during their externship. And then other internship programs that we support at the USDA level is the Thurgood Marshall Program, HACU, which stands for Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, and the WINS, the Washington Internship Program, that's primarily here in the D.C. metro area. And as you can see from the chart, it lets you know the pros and cons or advantages and disadvantages that each of these programs offer that Veterinary Services supports. At this point, I will turn it over to Karen Martin, who is our program manager for the Summer Intern Program. So, Karen?
Hello, everyone. The Veterinary Services Summer Intern Program provides opportunities for current students who are enrolled in accredited colleges and universities an opportunity to explore a possible career in the federal service by working an assignment in the Veterinary Services Program for the summer. Our goal is to provide a meaningful experience for students to consider joining Veterinary Services as a career choice once they graduate. Students are hired under temporary appointments starting on or about May 1st, and we say that because some students may get out of college earlier than others. These positions are centrally funded, therefore they have a not-to-exceed date of September 30th. However, if the business unit wants to extend the appointments, they can, but then they would assume all cost and responsibility for those students. Positions include payment of transportation to and from the official duty station for the assignment, and also housing expenses, and that is for students who are not locally assigned. So if you live in the area and you're working here, that's not going to apply to you. But if there's someone who's living in California and wants to come to work for us, we're going to pay their travel here, return home, and their housing. And next, we're talking about supervisor, mentor, and admin support responsibilities. One of the things that needs to be done for the student, if they're applicable for housing, prior to their arrival, suitable and safe housing should be found for them. And this is a combined effort between the supervisor and their support. If they are getting housing, there's documentation that needs to be submitted, and that's all spelled out in their housing agreement, so that would have to be adhered to. Each student completes an intern program participation agreement, which spells out the terms of the program, and that agreement, of course, requires the signature of the supervisor and the student. The supervisor spells out the duties and responsibilities for the student and identifies any performance goals and also evaluation criteria. Although there's no formal performance plan or performance rating in these positions, the supervisor should discuss what the performance goals are for the student and provide feedback on how the student is performing. Also, if there's any special training or any mandatory training requirements that are required of the student, that should be relayed also. A mutually agreeable work schedule should be established so that it's coordinated and agreeable with both the student and the supervisor. Of course, the supervisor needs to supervise daily activity as a student, and we want to ensure that the student remains engaged and productive. We don't want the student to feel like they're bored and they have nothing to do. And a mentor, although it's not required, we always encourage a mentor be assigned for students when at all possible. It can only be helpful. And we also ask when SF-52s are prepared for the students that the PSS program manager is copied, and that would be for any personnel action involving a student, whether it be the termination, expiration of appointment, or if they're being extended or reassigned. We need to be aware of that so we can track the students. And next, we're going to talk about the student's responsibility. Of course, they have to show proof of enrollment in an accredited college or university. And this is part of the application process, so they would need to show that when they apply for the job. Of course, they have to sign their internship program participation agreement with their supervisor. It says that they're going to work for veterinary services for their summer period, again, on or about May 1st through September 30th. They should be in good academic standing, although there's no particular GPA requirement. The students should still be in good academic standing in their classes. Complete any forms necessary for onboarding, and also there's new employee orientation. So this would include any forms for in-processing, security, any forms or attendance for new employee orientation, anything required as part of their in-processing procedure. They need to adhere to established work schedule as agreed upon between their supervisor. And again, to participate in any agency classes or programs that are deemed required by the supervisor. Of course, observe all workplace rules in whatever location they're working in. And lastly, to perform successfully the assigned duties and their position description, as provided by the supervisor. Okay, next we have the data call for the summer intern program is scheduled for December 5th through the 12th, 2016. At this time, I'm going to ask if there are any questions for the summer intern program.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question over the phone lines, you can do so by pressing #2 on your telephone handset. You will be notified once your line is unmuted, and pressing #2 a second time will remove you from the question queue. Looks like we do have a few hands raised, so that will go to our first caller. Please go ahead.
Yes, hey, LaWanda and gang. This is Derek Metza. LaWanda and I have spoken about this. I posted my question to all moderators, but thought I'd just go ahead and come on the phone. The problem with summer interns that I have run into every year for the past 5 years is that when it takes about 3 to 4 weeks once they get here and in process before they receive that first subsidy payment for their housing. The problem is with the local hotels and or leasing offices, they all require payment up front. Some of these students are either coming unprepared to make that payment or they can't afford that payment. And so then we're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place because what do we do with a student for those 3 to 4 weeks it takes to get them the money? We've managed through some unconventional means to get that taken care of before, but that's not going to be possible in the future. So I guess it's a kind of a question and a statement and also information that, you know, maybe someone can look at a way to streamline this so that when the student actually reports for duty, maybe at that time, within a few days at least, they can secure some funding to either pay for a lease or pay for those first 30 days in an extended stay hotel. Over.
Hi, Derek. Thank you. This is Luanda. Thank you for your question. Before the summer intern program, before the students arrive to report next summer for the summer internship, we plan to have a call not only with HR staff, but also plan to invite FMD to try to see how we can work within the rules of this process, because you're not the only location that has expressed difficulty with being able to secure lodging for the student. So there will definitely be more information forthcoming, but we'll just look for that to be taken care of on that next call that we plan to have directly with those offices that will have a student on board.
Okay,
but
great.
I'm sure you'll be involved. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Derek.
Okay, it looks like we have a few written questions that are just asking, can the information be sent out, and will the PowerPoint presentation be sent out?
Yes, the presentation, along with a frequently asked question handout, along with 2 other documents, will all be disseminated by the end of the week. Yes.
Okay, it looks like we do have another hand raised. But Juliana, if we could have you dial #2 on your telephone handset just so we can identify your line, we can go into your question next. Okay, and I believe the hand is now raised, so we'll go to our next caller. Please go ahead.
Hi, it's Julie Lennox. I was just wondering what pay scale these positions come in at, and are they advertised on USA Jobs, or do we have any other routes for advertising for these positions?
Yes, all of the summer intern positions are on the GS pay schedule, General Services pay schedule, and they are all announced on USA Jobs. When Karen sends out the announcement for the data call for the summer intern positions, they will be all compiled into one request. The VSET, there are afforded 25 positions, and usually we receive more than that. So at times the VSET will determine, based on the need of those positions, which ones will be selected, and we will work with that lead administrative officer for that business unit to coordinate announcements on USA Jobs.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, at the moment, I am not seeing any additional questions.
Okay.
Actually, as I said that, looks like another hand did go up. Sorry to interrupt. With that, we'll go to our next caller. Please go ahead. Hi, Jill. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Oh, good. I was just wondering, with the potential hiring freeze, is that going to affect these student programs?
Hi, this is Kevin Richardson. Yeah, I think we don't know. We're not sure what's going to happen. We'll see what happens as the new administration comes in January. It may have an impact on some of these programs, but we can't tell right now.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. We did receive another written question. It says, will the pending hiring freeze impact the summer intern program?
That was the question he just answered, Colin.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No worries.
At the moment, I'm not seeing any additional questions then.
Okay, then, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Deidre Nevu to talk about the Tribal Nation Initiative for Veterinary Services.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. So, new for 2017, VF has established the Tribal Nation Initiative, where we've partnered with the Navajo Technical University, a tribal land-grant institution in rural Crown Point, New Mexico, for a pilot of the VS Tribal Nation Initiative program. In exchange for working for VS, 4 students will receive an internship covering tuition. An animal health technician student trainee job announcement advertisement was developed to target Navajo Tech students with our Financial Management Division and Human Resources Division approving the Schedule AR announcement method. This method of announcement allowed us to target our specific audience directly, that being Navajo Tech students in the animal science and pre-vet program. The purpose of this program is to strengthen the partnership between VS and tribal land-grant institutions, increase those studying in animal science or pre-vet medicine in the targeted underrepresented group, as well as offer career opportunities to USDA Tribal Nation interns in VS. The Animal Science program at Navajo Tech offers an associate's degree. Therefore, we hope students receiving these scholarships will be encouraged to continue their education. If this pilot is successful, we hope to expand partnerships with other tribal land-grant institutions. Some key factors about the program. The program is open to students studying at a tribal land-grant institution in the fields of animal science or pre-vet medicine. If funding permits, internships will be awarded annually. Internship recipients will be placed on a Fellow Experience Program appointment known as FEP. This appointment differs from Pathways in the fact that it does not provide non-competitive conversion. And also, all student expenses are paid by essential funds. Students selected for this program will receive tuition in the amount of $3,510 per year towards their undergrad studies, summer employment as an AHT trainee, summer housing throughout their internship, travel to and from the duty station, as students could be placed anywhere in the U.S. Just a side note, a data call with the 4 students' resumes will go out to the VS lead AOs for placement. And lastly, these students also receive federal employee benefits. The supervisor, mentor, and admin support responsibilities are identical to those in the summer intern program that Karen previously mentioned. However, one difference is that compared to the summer interns, these students will return the following summer, so are not terminated at the end of the summer, but placed in leave without pay status. Now we're moving on to the students' responsibilities, and some of these also are the same as the summer internship program. So the student is responsible to show proof of enrollment. They are to maintain a GPA of 2.0. They are required to sign the internship program participant agreement agreeing to work for VS during their summer breaks. They are to notify their supervisor of any change in enrollment or their work schedule. Be in good academic standing. Complete all required onboarding forms. Complete new employee orientation conducted by the local AO which the student is assigned. Adhere to an established work schedule. Participate in training classes and programs. Observe all workplace rules. Successfully perform assigned duties. And also the student will be required to reimburse APHIS for financial assistance received if the terms and conditions of the program are not met. Are there any questions related to the Tribal Nation Initiative?
And just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, you can do so by pressing #2 on your telephone handset. Looks like we do have a written question that's come through. It says, when are you sending the data call for the tribal initiative?
Yes, the data call will go out the first week of December.
Okay, looks like we have a question over the phone lines as well. So with that, we'll go to our next caller. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe this was covered or covered elsewhere, but this Randall Levies with Veterinary Services. So this is pre-vet. If they're admitted to veterinary school, what do we do with them?
Randall, this is Lawanda. The Navajo Tech University is for undergraduates, but once a student comes on board, and if they after they complete their degree, they have to apply to be non-competitively, they have to apply to a position to be selected for placement within veterinary services for this pilot year program. We're having to work with the department to be able to legally bring them on board, similar to both the Saul T. Wilson and the Daniel Salman Scholarship programs. But because of the type of appointment being the Schedule 8R, it doesn't afford us that opportunity.
Okay, thanks.
Does that answer your question?
I think so. I might follow up with you a little bit more, but I won't take other people's time. Thanks.
Go ahead, Randall. Others may have the same question.
So you expect them to apply, though, right? Otherwise, they'll have to pay back the grants, right?
No.
Oh.
They don't. Unless they do not meet the grounds for the internship program participant agreement, they will not be removed, but we're affording the opportunity and increasing our outreach with the tribal land grant institutions by instituting this new initiative.
Okay, I misunderstood.
That's okay, and we're trying to offer underrepresented groups.
Yep, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, at the moment, I am not seeing any additional questions.
Okay, I will now turn it over to Ms. Lynn Chambers, the Program Manager for the Saul T. Wilson Jr. Internship Program.
Good afternoon, everyone. The intern will experience real-life situations facing VS every day. There are future veterinarians and our biomedical graduates. These disciplines for this program are in the 400 and 700 series. They might assist with the veterinary technicians and the VMOs in their duties, draw blood samples for lab testing, assist and gather information on our disease programs, provide date verification, and provide document review. These are just a few. I'll turn it back over to Deidre.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm now moving on to the Daniel E. Salman Internship Program. The Salman program offers non-veterinary students VS mentorship and career development opportunities in preparation for public service. Our work in VS demands the need for talent, and Salman interns enhance this effort. The Wilson and Salman programs are identical, except for the fact that Wilson students are pre-vet, veterinary, or animal science majors, and Salman students have varying majors. All Wilson interns will be placed in the 0799 student trainee series, whereas Salman interns could be in any of the following fields, from biologists ranging to miscellaneous admin specialists. Another difference in these two programs is that for Salmon, the selecting official is more involved in the hiring process, while for Wilson's, a data call for placement will be sent out and business units can select students based on their resumes. A little bit about both of these programs. The student has to be enrolled as a full-time student and are accepted for enrollment in an accredited college or university. Internships are awarded annually if funding permits. Announcements are open on USA Jobs between February and March timeframe, approximately for a 2-week period. Internship recipients will be placed on a Pathways appointment. This appointment allows for the possibility of conversion without further competition to a permanent appointment with APHIS upon successful completion of the program. APHIS is underlined because if the student cannot be placed within VS, they'll be placed in a program within APHIS. Tuition and salary are paid via central funds, and also a $2,000 one-time travel allotment will be granted, and this is to last throughout the duration of them being a scholar. Both Wilson and Salman recipients are awarded the following: tuition in the amount of $7,500 per year for undergraduate students and $15,000 per year for graduate students. This also includes books and lab fees. This amount was recently increased from the $5,000 and $10,000 amounts. The student will also receive paid summer employment. So our students hired for 2016 will begin working summer 2017 between the May and June timeframe. The reason being is that we are to pay tuition for a full year before the student can begin work per the MOU agreement with VS. Wilson and Salman students will also receive federal employee benefits, and again, as I had previously mentioned, the $2,000 travel amount. And back to Lynn.
The Pathways Agreement has to be signed by the student and the manager before the hiring date. The document has to be sent to HR before the official letter can be sent out by HR. That's why it's crucial for PSS to act promptly to find an office for the student as soon as possible in order to identify the manager and the location. The Saul Wilson interns will have a PD sent to the manager or the AO. This will help the manager identify the job duties, performance goals, and rating criteria. We have to work together to establish a work schedule. Most managers already have a mentor in mind. The mentor forms will be sent to the manager before the student starts work and should be discussed with the student on the first day of work. The program manager will contact the manager sometime in the January before the student is to graduate. This discussion will consist of such items as if the office wants to keep the student, if there's any disciplinary or work problems, and discuss steps that are to follow involving the conversion of the student to a permanent position. PSS requests that one of the program managers be copied on all the 52s involving the students. This will ensure the program manager is informed of all actions concerning the student during the internship status. Examples include leave without pay, finances, and any other things that may occur. The student's responsibilities, under the student responsibilities, the students must provide PSS with their unofficial transcripts after each semester, quarter, or official transcripts on an annual basis. The transcripts will provide us information including GPAs, class schedule, enrollment status, and academic standings. As a student employee, they have to comply with the rules of conduct, meet all training requirements, and succeed in their job duties. They also have to repay VS for the money spent on their tuition if the student fails to perform any of the required mentions previously. They agree to work a minimum of 640 hours before they graduate. However, upon manager's discretion, can work 320 hours if they meet the criteria of a superior work performance and maintain an overall 3.8 GPA. The onboarding documents, PSS will complete the initial 52 for the Saul Wilson internship only. After that, wherever the student is placed in their location and whoever the manager is, that administrative staff is responsible for the SS52s, naming the student, location, and the manager. The Pathways Agreement has to be signed by the student and the manager before the official offer letter hiring the student is to be sent to the student. PSS is responsible for getting that student to sign the agreement and send to the manager for their signature, and then forwarding on that document to HR. The manager is responsible for assigning a mentor. The mentor will be sent the agreement either to the AO or to the manager. The document will be signed by the mentor and the student and returned to PSS. PSS will have the MOU signed by the student and Dr. Shear. The office where the student is assigned is responsible for performing the new employee orientation and sending the forms to HR with notification to PSS. Once again, be sure to copy the program manager on all 52s, please. Now I'll turn it back over to Deidre.
Actually, to LaWanda Lynn. So that's okay. Just a friendly reminder for the data call due date. The Daniel E. Salman internship program due date, the data call will go out from Deidre on tomorrow to the VS lead AO for those positions that are not veterinary medical officer or AHT, falling under those two series. So, for example, the program specialist, entomologist, biologist, etc., those positions that were previously mentioned on the slide. The summer internship program data call will go out December 5th through 12th, and that will be coming out from Karen. So if you can go ahead and start identifying, if you would like to have a summer intern position in your staff, go ahead and start planning to make sure you respond to that data call before the deadline. As Lynn mentioned, there is no data call for the Saul T. Wilson internship program, but a data call for placement of the graduating students will go out around February-March timeframe. The data call will include the graduating student's resume and letter of interest. That letter of interest is really just a thank you for allowing them the opportunity to be a recipient of the Saul Wilson Scholarship and an idea of the geographical area they would like to be placed if there is a position within veterinary services area. It does not necessarily mean that they are granted and afforded the opportunity to be placed there, but we do take it into consideration. For the Saul Wilson Scholar offices that have students already on board, they are afforded the opportunity of first selection if they would like to keep that scholar. And so of the graduating 8 students, there are 2 offices that have already let us know that they want their scholars at that location once they graduate in the spring. Not that the Veterinary Medical Officer Career Program is a student program, but we just wanted to mention that a data call will be going out January 9th through 18th of next year for Veterinary Medical Officer Career Program locations for those entry-level VMO positions. Are there any questions regarding any of the programs that we've discussed today?
And just as a quick reminder, you can press #2 to ask your question over the phone lines, or you can use the notes feature in the AT&T Connect software to type in your question. And it looks like we did receive a few written questions. First one we have here is, will the current Salty Wilson scholars that graduate vet school in 2017 be provided a position if we are on a hiring freeze?
Yes, because they are already VS employees.
Okay. Next question we have is, sorry, just give me one moment. Does the Daniel E. Salman allow for PhD students?
It depends on the position. Usually they target, because the Daniel E. Salman falls under the Pathways program, some of their positions do not allow for them to reach up that high, or they can always apply, but they'll have to come on board at a lower level. Whereas sometimes the PhD, depending on that position, can qualify them for a higher graded level. If that selection official wants to bring them in or announce, they can do so at their disclosure.
Next question we have is, which experiences can count for paid time for Wilson and Salman students? For example, can students be paid for their time participating in Smith-Kilbourne program?
So for those that aren't aware, the Smith-Kilbourne program is a program that is managed by Paula Cowan on the professional development staff. Her group puts on a program that allows one vet student from each of the 30 accredited vet colleges to come to veterinary services to obtain training for a week. If a student is on board before Smith-Kilbourne, then they are afforded to count that towards their work experience. But only if they are already on the books and having reported to their duty station prior to the Smith-Kilbourne date can that time count.
Okay, looks like we have a few more written questions, but we'll squeeze in a verbal question real quick going out to our next caller. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Renee Sandoval. I have a question in regards to being a term employee and what the possibilities would be, or which program would be best if I were to look to become a VMO, which would be the best program to apply for.
Renee, are you already in vet school?
No, not yet, but I'm looking to apply.
Okay. Right. So for our the program you would apply to is the Saul Wilson Scholarship Program, and you would already have to at least be in your freshman year to qualify, so you can be selected during your sophomore year.
No.
So you already have to have a year. You already have to be attending for 1 year before you can apply.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we do have another verbal question going out to our next caller. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Tommy. I know a student who applied this year, but they have not heard back. What is the status of this year's selection?
To which program did they apply?
I think they applied for Salty Wilson.
So for this year, we've already made selections. We picked up 13 students this year back in the summer. So all of those students have received notification. I would advise for you to tell that student to look at their USA Jobs account, and then that will let them know the status of their application, whether or not they were referred, et cetera, things like that.
Okay.
Okay, looks like we do have a few more written questions. Next question we have is, how can I download the presentation?
We will send it out by close of business tomorrow with the frequently asked questions, and also 2 other documents, the Salty Wilson fact sheet and the Daniel Salman fact sheet.
Okay, next is, how many Salman scholars do we bring on board every year?
So the Salman positions vary. Last year, the Veterinary Services Executive Team, the VSET, approved for 7 positions to be announced. So it depends on the data call and funding. There's no set number for either of the scholarship programs in any given year. The only specific number is the summer intern program, and that max number is 25 positions on an annual basis.
Okay, next we have, are the Salman Scholars centrally funded?
All of these programs are centrally funded. The Salty Wilson is centrally funded, covering their tuition. The Daniel Salman, centrally funded, covering the tuition. The summer internship program is centrally funded, covering the tuition, travel, and housing. The VS Tribal Nation Initiative, covering tuition, travel, and housing. The 1890 program is shared funding between us and the the administrator, being Kevin Shea's office, managed by OCRDI. There's no funding covered for the externship program. There's no funding for the Thurgood Marshall program, Haku and WINS. Those are managed by the OCRDI office for the Kevin Shea's office, the office administrator. The only difference is that the business unit may have those interns that they bring on board that they will have to fund. The business units always hire outside of the 25 centrally funded summer intern positions that my office manages.
Okay. Next question we have was a follow-up to the question about the hiring freeze. It says, you say that they are already employees, but don't we have to have an open position in order to put them in it? Would that happen during a hiring freeze?
So the Saul Wilsons are placed in a leave without pay status, and they are already in a position. So technically they are already housed somewhere, albeit temporarily, because they are attending their accredited institution to complete their degree. So once they come on board, once they are converted, it's just a matter of placing them. So you're not hiring them, you're just technically reassigning them. So they're already an employee. We're just maybe moving them to a different location.
Next question is, do you all have a network of units that are willing to host Wilson or Salman students for a detail?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
It says, do you all have a network of units that are willing to host Wilson or Salman students for a detail?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question being the network, but I will say that PSS, the program managers that you heard from today, are going to have quarterly calls with our students even during the off year, during off season, meaning when they're in school, and then we're planning to have a call with the managers and AOs of those offices that will have students brought on board during the summer. So I'm not sure if that kind of answers the question, but if not, the individual, you can send either myself or any of the program managers that question directly.
Okay, looks like we have a few more. Next question is, do Saul Wilson participants need medical clearance and fit testing for PPE to participate in VS activities that require PPE?
So for the Saul Wilson, it depends on where they are assigned. If they're assigned to one of those field offices or locations that require it, then yes, they do have to meet that requirement.
Next is, what GS level do the Wilson and Salman students come in at?
The positions vary. For undergrad, they are a 4.5, and for graduates, they are 7.9. So if they're going to school for their bachelor's, associates or bachelor's, they'll be a 4.5. And if they're in vet school or graduate school, they could apply as either, they could qualify as either a GS7 or 9.
Okay, at the moment, the last question I have is, I am already an APIS employee, and I want to go back to finish my undergrad. Could I apply for the Daniel Salman internship?
Unfortunately, no. You cannot apply to the Daniel Salman because you will have to resign from your position and be placed on a different type of appointment. You'll only be eligible to come and work during the summer unless you or that manager will agree to an alternate work schedule. And that employment would not meet the requirement under the centrally funded policy. The manager of that position would have to pay your salary during the year, and then we would cover tuition.
Okay, and at the moment, I'm not seeing any additional questions. As a reminder, you can press #2 if you would like to ask a question over the phone lines, or you can type in a note question if you'd like. Still not seeing any additional questions at the moment.
Great. Well, as you can see on the last slide, this is our National Recruitment Program's website. So you can go there to get additional information. Eventually, this webinar will be recorded and placed on that website. As I mentioned, we will be disseminating this presentation along with other documentation by close of business tomorrow. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of those individuals that you see on the screen, and especially within their respective areas of the programs that they manage. I just want to thank you for taking time to attend this webinar. There were almost 200 people, so I really appreciate the effort and commitment from veterinary services managers, employees, and those invited guests for taking the time out to come and join us for today.